tēnā rawa mai rā e pā e tō mātai matua nui te rangi tū riuri whāioio te ia we toi ore whakamue miti ai tā ye hiuhi āmene ka piti hono ka tātai hono ko rātai mā tērā te mate kua riro atu ki tu o te ārai o te mate haere whakauti atu ka piti hono ka tātai hono āpiti ki a tātou mā he tātou kua huti mai nei ki roto ki ngā kōrero i roto i nei rā whakatā kia mihi a koutou kia whakanui a koutou ko koutou anō e whakarangatira mai anani i a tātou mātou ai ngā kōrero katoa anō nei i ngā whakataunga kreme kia Tahumaakaakanuimatua HapuIwi kai te mihi atu nau mai haere tēnā rā tātou a Māori ora kahuri ai e tātauma yeah, here we are back again aroha mai yeah, just like last week. I'm still getting used to this new setup. I'm back on the PC again. I'm speaking a little bit, I'm giving it a little bit of volume, not like last week where I was just about shouting through the whole thing. And so I've basically got us back on the Ariki page. I was going to do this in TeTaiTokerauAukatitai, so back in the MākeiiKouMei page I was going to do this particular video, but I thought, oh well, because I was on the Ariki page at the time, I thought, oh no, here I'll try this one and just see how we go. Might go better on the Ariki page, on the MākeiiKouMei page, but who knows. Last week's one didn't turn out too badly. We had a good look at it. We assessed it. We looked at the fact that most of the problems we had were mostly due to me either forgetting about my timing or for me in my shouting. Because I just wanted to make sure, because it's a bit harder via the PC to know. And I think I'm not too sure whether I've got the dials right here, and I sort of can't see the volume that much, so I don't really know whether the volume is coming out. And of course I've got the volume right down, you know, te moroiti kwa itirawa nei, itirawa ke atu nei, te moroiti, so te moro, we can't, that's why I was shouting last week, just to make sure. Today, I think I can afford to be a little bit more relaxed about things, and I'm just trying to get it onto the big screen here. I don't know what I've done. I've sort of gone and the screen's sort of gone a little bit what have I done here? I don't know what I've done, but it shouldn't matter too much. I think I've got the angle and everything on the cam all correct today, and well, it's not too bad today. I sort of didn't have everything adjusted properly, and though I had a couple of people around able to adjust this and that while I was getting started last week, once everyone disappeared, I think I messed around with a couple of dials and sort of had ruined the angle of the cam, and I sort of had done this and that and didn't actually realise it. So, but here we go. I think we're back in business at Tautauma, and even though it's still holidays today, some of us, we're hard workers, some of us, and we work on the Easter Monday, and we get done all those things that need to get done that haven't been done from the previous week, and that might hold us up in the week to come, over the week to come. So another big week this week, and still looking for the kahunu rangitane. Just thought I'd mention that there, to bring us the good news that they're in favour of the conditions. I mean, things, obviously things haven't changed since from the beginning. Since 2009, we stipulated everything to the kahunu rangitane. Then we wanted to unite, and of course we wanted to unite against the Crown as well, and they refused. They went under the Crown, and so our story hasn't changed. Everything's turned around now, but we're trying to get over the final hurdle. All the finishing touches to us are done. We've settled. We've basically settled. We've got conditions on there, but we've basically settled. Now they can settle and actually save the talks over the conditions till after settlement. They can actually settle. They've got that option, whether they agree or not to the conditions. But then the conditions mean that things are not going to change. If they've got this far and they feel like they want to change things at Tautauma. Sorry, I just thought I'd quickly mention that. They're going to find that they can't do that. Okay, and that's pretty much what we've put to them. So not next week or the week after, but the week after that, we'll get a good lowdown on what's happening there. And I thought I'd get in quickly about Heretaunga Wairua. Even though they should be under the whakatapu right now, we've decided to keep holding off them. We've got some of our people up there, up in Heretaunga Wairua. They're in a bit of spot of bother. They're suffering a bit up there with a lot of the attitude problems, a lot of the difficulties with threats and stuff like that still going on in Heretaunga Wairua, where I think it's just the kahunu rangitane people just don't understand. They're so brainwashed, they don't understand. They don't realise they're dealing with the tuakana. They're dealing with the people that rightfully, originally own the whole of Heretaunga Wairua. They don't understand that. Why? Because they've been told for years. In fact, over the last couple of centuries, they've been told it's them. They've been over-exaggerated to think there was something like a king or something in these lands, and that they conquered them, blah, 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 blah. But that was before we got in there. We took out all of the tūturutanga in there. Mai te reo, pitautiki, te tikanga me te kawa. Mai roto I ngā hohonutanga, te tātaitai kawa o te kōrero, e rā mea katoa. We had to look at everything, and we turned it upside down, because actually what we found in there is that our iwi was far from kahungunu, far from rangitane, and what we had in there was the substance of Tahumaakaakanuimatua. That's not going to change. That's not ever going to change, because that substance is so established, so detailed, so in-depth, that at Tautauma we've gone worldwide with it. We have gone national with it, as you will know. And at Tautauma as well, we have also gone very, very in depth. And we have all of the evidence we need to roll straight back into all of the rights and interests of Tahumaakaakanuimatua, HapuIwi, from right throughout the country. So, nau mai haere, Tautauma, nau mai haere, te TeTaiTokerauAukatiTai, the Mākeiii, pai te mihi atu, ia tātou mātou, nā wai, ana, ko tō tātou anō nā titiro noa tiki ki ngā whakataunga KouMei kia Tahumaakaakanuimatua ki roto te Maakei, you know, ki roto te TeTiriti&ToTahumaakaa in the Northern Divide. Here we are looking again at our settlements in the Northern Divide, and they're not going too badly. Yeah, as challenging as things sound at the moment, they're not going to too badly. In fact, we're doing a lot better there than we've ever done down here in the west and in the east. So yeah, we're quite happy with the north, regardless of our kōrero today, which is going to focus on some not so positive news, and that's for the Ngapuhi, a part of Ngapuhi, sorry, I better make that clear, a part of Ngapuhi who has decided to, you know, go back in time a bit. They seem to have forgotten, you know, that a lot of progress has been made in the meantime. A lot of progress has been made in the short time leading up to throughout times of the last 10 to 15 years. And even before that, the 10 to 15 years before that, they've forgotten all that. They've thrown all that progress, and they've looked back at the old regime under the crown, the Corona, and they've said, oh, mate, we've got to go along with this, you know, and they've gone back to their brainwashed ways. Well, largely our focus today is going to be on that particular group. All the rest of Ngapuhi can breathe a sigh of relief because they're on the right track. And we know that, and they know that. They know that they've come through the worst, and they know that they have been able to understand a lot clearer and in depth where their claims are at, and where in fact their focus needs to be, and they're focused in the right areas. They know they're not an iwi, they know they're not a HapuIwi, they know the reo has been challenged so much, and we're going to focus a lot on that, the reo today in the north. We're going to focus on HapuIwi. We're going to focus on the land, the claims to the land. And right throughout TeTaiTokerauAukatitai, right throughout the Maakei, in fact, the weakest claim in the Maakei is this part of Ngapuhi. This group of Ngapuhi does not understand this, but they might be looking at their evidence under the crown as being masterful and the most primary that you would ever get, but we would like to challenge that. We've got primary evidence to the land, claims to the land, that go back a lot further than Ngapuhi ever could. Okay, and that includes the 1200s. We go back well before then. And when you've got claims like that, you hold the greater claim. And so that's what we bring the north, that's what Moai HapuIwi brings, that's what ReoAwa brings, that's what Mamwe HapuIwi whanau-uri brings, and that's what, of course, we bring Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and of course the Hapu UretarewaHapu that we come from, Tutura, that's what they bring as well. They come into the reo stakes today. We talk about their reo. Why? Because Ngapuhi has unsuccessfully in the past tried to interpret all of the reo of all those groups I just mentioned. They've tried to interpret them. Parts of Tahumaakaakanuimatua including the reo of Rakainui, Hapu UretarewaHapu, they tried to in the past interpret that reo and got it wrong. Tahumaakaakanuimatua, Hapu UretarewaHapu, their reo as well, they've tried to interpret that and got that wrong. They also tried to interpret The reo of Kahungunu, they said that was Ngapuhi, and they got that wrong as well. Their reo, their actual reo, their main reo of communication in terms of their reo of origin is Waitaha Waitaha Rangi Hapu Uretarewa whanau-uri. That is the reo of Waitaha of Kahungunu. Kahungunu uri whanau-uri is of that. Mind you, Kahungunu is not a part of the North. Kahungunu is only in TeTiriti&ToTahumaakaa and TTR and the Hawhau more. And they're no big deal up this way up in the Mākeiii. The big deal is Waitaha Waitaha Rangi. And so Ngapuhi have always tried to interpret their reo as being Ngapuhi in the North, and that's not true. It's Waitaha Waitaha Rangi all the way. Ngapuhi's reo comes in 5 reo later. That's where Ngapuhi's reo comes in, and that means to say the awa reo comes in 5 reo later. Because you've got 5 main lines coming through there, that trunk line of Waitaha Waitaha Rangi, and those 5 main lines are all Tahumaakaakanuimatua lines. So you're out married by 5 senior lines to the Ngapuhi line before we get to the Ngapuhi line. And that Ngapuhi reo is actually awa. Okay, it's not actually a Ngapuhi tūturu reo. There's no such reo. Okay, there's also the lack of correct interpretation of the Māmoe existence, Māmoe HapuIwi whanau-uri existence in the North. The whakapapa and whakapapa kōrero of all of that existence in the North, Ngapuhi misinterpreted that as well. This is over past years, so over the last 30 years, Ngapuhi, and it's a shame that this part of Ngapuhi up there have gone backwards 30 years and said, stuff the progress of the last 30 years, we'll stuff it up and we'll go backwards, back to the crown, we'll lean on the crown, we'll say, well, the crown is our saviour, and we'll stick with the crown. Okay, even though we're over-exaggerated and we're brainwashed by what the crown tells us, and we like to believe in that. Why? Because it gives us that ready-made and assured settlement, which, comes to settlement if it's not really legal, if it's flawed, and if it's, not looking too good and very, very shaky on the ground, mate. These are some of the reasons why we would never settle in TeTiriti&ToTahumaakaa or TeTaiTokerauAukatitai. Okay, so we've got the update coming through there, the update for the North, and that's a biggie. That's a biggie, obviously. And so we go into the claims up there, into the lands today as well, because the weakest claim up there is Ngapuhi. So you have to realise, even though Ngapuhi is included as an LNG, I know that's what this part of Ngapuhi is holding on to, the LNG. LNG is nothing today. We've proven that. We've proven that within TeTiriti&ToTahumaakaa and within TeTaiTokerauAukatitai and the UretarewaHapu and in Hawhau more, we have more than proven that LNGs are out of here. Okay? Especially if you're Tina, and most of the LNGs in the country, in fact just about all of them, are all Tina. Okay? Not good. That's not a good look for the Crown process. The Crown is the main problem with this whole deal. Okay? And that's good news. That's good news for this part of Ngapuhi, because they're sucked in, they're brainwashed by the Crown. That's what the problem is. And the Crown is the problem, the biggest part of the problem. Now, there's another part to the problem, and that is that you're following them. You're following them. And these are some of the things that you've overlooked. We're going to bring all of that today in the update, and we need to, because we need this part of Ngapuhi to turn back. We need them to discuss some of these things with the other parts of Ngapuhi who have got their focus on. They've got their concentration fully on exactly what's before us, and exactly what's before us is that all the seniors are back in town, and we need to consider that. We need to consider how far their claims go back. We need to also consider the makeup of the complexities and the intricacies of the culture and heritage, the spiritual cultural heritage of our Tupuna in the north. And that's huge. It's huge. It's so diverse, and like I've said before, most of the reo of the country is from within the north. Tuturu. It might not be there at the moment, but once we get allowed to get going up there and working up there, you'll find all the reo start to come back up there. Okay, that includes the reo of Ngapuhi, which might not be reo Tuturu to Ngapuhi, but they're still reo of Ngapuhi. There's about 6 reo up there, above the ground, that is, above the ground. And a whole myriad of reo on the ground. So they've got a lot of reo up there still, Ngapuhi. Even if this reo that they still say is theirs, is kaitehi. That's moriori. That reo, and we've said that once before in our last video for TeTiriti&ToTahumaakaa, and we'll say it again, that's moriori reo. And it needs to be used now e tataumā in its correct context, in its accurate context. Okay? And we know that reo because that reo flows from moriori all the way down through awa, tini o toi, tūhoe, Ngapuhi, all those lines down through there, Muriwai and all of them, tamatea ki te huatahi, all those people. We know all those lines, and that reo flowed right through there. Okay, so it's not just Ngapuhi, not only that, but between Te Pito Te Henua and Rekohu, that reo flowed also, and still does today. Okay, we need to focus on these things, the realities that are before us, and the actual in-depth evidence that is available to us. Some other reo that the Ngapuhi in the past tried to interpret the reo of Te Awa, the reo of Moai HapuIwi, Te Awa HapuIwi as well, and they tried to say they were Ngapuhi reo as well. That's incorrect. Okay, the reo also of TTR as well, Hapu UretarewaHapu whanau-uri. They tried to say that reo was either kahumunu or Ngapuhi, or a part of Ngapuhi, and that's kaitehi. That's TTR, our Tupuna, part of our Uretarewa. That's the top of our Uretarewa, TTR. TTR&ToTahumaakaa, Tahumaakaakanuimatua. That's our Uretarewa. And that Uretarewa, I'll just make mention of that because we've got there. We're going to talk a little bit on that today about TeKura-i-Awarua in the north, in the Mākeiii. And we were the overlord, the taiopuru ariki mataura, of all of the ruanuku, ruarangi, and ruahine of old, of the original TeKura-i-Awarua and Raiatea Tahiti. Ai, ko mātau tērā, ko mātau anō hoki tērā. Okay, and that's our Uretarewa comes straight through there. From within TeKura-i-Awarua, and TeKura-i-Awarua is the renowned wānanga, the whare wānanga of Raiatea Tahiti, belonging to Tahumaakaakanuimatua, the last known of the taiopuru ariki mataura of TeKura-i-Awarua. Okay, now it's in my hands, and I've brought it to New Zealand. I've brought it to Te Tiri o te moana Hawaii ki tau, Te Tiri o te moana ki nō kou, ki te tiri o te moana Aotearoa as well. And we're establishing TeKura-i-Awarua from right throughout the motu. We are hoping to bring greater experiences in education, but not just experiences in this country with the what do you call it? The mainstream education system and experiences available in there if you want to take that. But this is mostly for those who want to experience the indigenous side of the culture and heritage of the country and learn within that at all levels in the country. So we're going to talk about the TeKura-i-Awarua today. We've got PaeperaKoroutu coming up also today. We've got we were going to do Kohuiarau as well today. I'll just have a look, because there's so much in the update to come through. There's so much in the update. Let me see where I might. Oh no. I'll go into Kohuiarau and finish at Kohuiarau. We don't need to mention the whakatapu up in the MākeiiKouMei, because at the moment things are pretty settled up there. We've just got a split in the Ngapuhi, and that's a shame. I thought they'd be a lot more united than that, because our people in the north there have become so much better informed. See, we didn't think there was any boastful activity going on up there, or people over exaggerating their claim or their knowledge in the area up there, but apparently there is. This particular group up there is doing that. Sorry, I didn't know about that till later on in the month, last month, and so I got to delve a bit more into that. So we've got to basically educate these people and inform them of the choice that they've made. They're going against basically the best of the evidence that's there, just because the Crown is though the Crown is an entity that is it's flawed. It's flawed. The whole of the establishment of the Crown is flawed. Its process is flawed. It's built on, how can you put it? Lawlessness. That's what the settlers, that was the biggest trouble in the early times. 1769, 1770, 72. Right through from there to 1790, come into 1815, the establishment of Kohuiarau and the opening of Kohuiarau in the country, in the north there. And what you got at Tauma was a whole lot of rebellion, lawlessness against what our Tupuna wanted. Our Tupuna wanted 50-50. This is what I was telling I was telling Winston the other night. I saw his post and I thought, gosh, he's getting more and more ridiculous as we go along. And you know what I said to him? I said, mate, you got to realise the separatists in this country are your boss. Separatism is in your own backyard. Have a good look in your own backyard. And I said to him that separatism was born in this country from the Crown representatives that looked to take control of this country from 1815 right through to 1840. And then finally in 1840 they secured it by fraudulently. They secured it in the country, separatism and racism. In this country there was a feudal system within the Crown ways of operating going on at that time, right through that whole time. And I said to him, the only racists and the only separatists in this country are the New Zealand Crown. And that's who you work for. Have a good look in your own backyard. Have a good look at the Parliament where you work. because all those signs that you see in there are signs of separatism, are signs of racism. And okay, the system is slowly changing, but it's not good enough. And it's not good enough to just pass the buck like that and blame everything onto us just because we're always staunch, standing up against the system and fighting against the system and protesting against the system. Mā rohi ke hoki no mātou. I said to him, mā rohi ke hoki o mātou. You know, and I said, you are the weak link. That's what you are. I said, you are a brainwashed moron. That's what I said to him. I said, get your facts straight and look at yourself. You're the separatists. Your whole Westminster system is the separatists. Everything built of the Crown in this country is separatists and racists, as far as we're concerned. And I left it there. But you know what? He got a big fright and he shut up and he had nothing more to say. Okay, he's got a cheek to come out and call us and islanders racists and things like that and separatists. He's blinded by the brainwashing he's received over the last couple of centuries as well. He doesn't realise separatism and racism in this country started from the Crown. And that's who he works for. Jeez, he's dumb. That's who he works for. Every little principle, every little objective and goal within the Crown ranks that he works for is separatists and racists. And yeah, that's what I said to Winitana. Yeah, and so yeah, that's our kōrero for today, the big update. That's the first part. We were going to within that update there's also the Hapu Uretarewa whanau-uri. We've got something to share there. Operation of the Hapu Uretarewa whanau-uri in the MākeiiKouMei, and also traditional unity, aspects and concepts of traditional unity in the North. We've got a little bit of a kōrero there too, and we'll add that just after the update. Before we go into PaeperaKoroutu, we've got two literary forms to talk on today in PaeperaKoroutu, and we've got two literary devices to share with you today as well. So we'll get through that pretty well. Straight into TeKura-i-Awarua after that, and we'll finish off with Kohuiarau. And this should do our kōrero for the North today, for the MākeiiKouMei. A good kōrero too, a good kōrero, and we've already started off fairly well. We're on fire up there in the North, and yeah, enjoying my work today, nice and quiet, and enjoying flowing through stuff and getting things done. I do a lot of composition sometimes, so I'm glad I'm going to get some time later on in the late afternoon to hook into some more composition. I've been holding up my composition for the last couple of weeks. I've been busy with other stuff, but I can get back into that later on this evening. Look, e tātou mā. So when we look at, you know, the not so distant past of the Ngapuhi, this part of Ngapuhi that has taken the lead of Ngapuhi and are trying to coax everybody in Ngapuhi to believing in their direction. We've got something to say about that, and that's what we bring in the update today. Although the settlements up there are going really, really well, they're going much better up there, except Ngapuhi needs to be careful how they settle it up there. It needs to be on a far more customary plane, because the plane that they've got it at the moment set on, and that the direction that they're taking everything in, is actually opposing the customary. Okay, and that's why we've got plenty to say on that. We've got plenty to say on that, e tātou mā, because the way that they are going, they're in denial, this group, or they just don't see the simple fact that in the not so recent past they've made all these interpretations on the reo, and every one of them has been incorrect. Okay, a number of reo has passed by them in the North over the years, the last 30 years, and every one of their interpretations of it, including the Moriori Reo. And that's the point that we're coming to. That's the point that we're coming to. Hapu uretar, aroha mai, HapuIwi. HapuIwi. As far as HapuIwi go, there's no way Ngapuhi could be there. There are no uretarewa in Te Aupōuri. There are no uretarewa in Te Rarawa. There are no uretarewa in Kahu. There are no uretarewa in Rahiri. There are no uretarewa in Nukutawhiti. There's none in Ngapuhi. Okay? No one's showed us anything, and we've had a good look for ourselves anyway, because we don't find for anything. Okay, so how can you even have a hapu miko te uretarewa whanau-uri within Ngapuhi? How can you have that? Okay? Even if you had one, at least you would be an official and authorized and hapu uretarewa that has that mana, that standing, that authority over a specific highly valued region, or or part of local areas of a region or a particular district, specific to the tribe, to the iwi that you belong to. And you belong, Ngapuhi, actually, even though they have their original iwi being awa, they're also of Mamwe, they're also of Moriori, and they're also of Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay? Right, and so that's four main reo there. 2 or 3 of the original line, the original uretarewa line through awa. You usually have 2 or 3 main reo, so you've got to have all 3 of those there. Reo HapuIwi, ReoAwa and Reo Matua. That's what you have through awa there. And so that's 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's 7 reo. 7 reo above the ground. Okay? So, yeah, with all these incorrect interpretations, the incorrect interpretation of Moai HapuIwi Reo, the incorrect interpretation of Te Awa HapuIwi Reo, which, if you look at the Moai HapuIwi Reo, part of that reo, the ni sounds, which turn to ni, and the fair sounds, which turn to where, in Moai, are basically those concepts that come through the Te Awa line. And then in the Tahumaakaakanuimatua line, our main one is the focus on the he, which becomes air, and the fair, which becomes where. Sometimes. Even some of our nuances in our reo are the same, well, similar. Like the nuance that we talk about within TeTiriti. Okay? Te ka wanatanga, te rangatiratanga. A very specific nuance there used with te. Just simply the kupu te. Te ka wanatanga, te rangatiratanga. Te rangatiratanga, if they had have put that in Article 1 in TeTiriti, what they would have said, yes, we basically we give up sovereignty if it said te rangatiratanga. Te rangatiratanga is specific to the sovereign capacities and the sovereign all those particular areas of governance within the area under sovereign rule, under sovereign governance, under sovereign authority within those regions. We were handing that over to the Queen. Did we do that? No. We gave Te Kawanatanga 540 chiefs signed for te kāwanatanga. What did they do with the English? They brought out a falsified, obviously defrauded version of the translation of the TRT. Yeah, obviously some of our tupuna were disgruntled at that. No one in particular signed the English version of the treaty at all. Okay, as you can see, I think it was about 35 ended up from Waikato area signed it, and yeah, that still didn't change things too much, eh? It was pretty obvious what we had given over to the Crown. Yeah, basically a part to play, just like we have always done. We said through Kohuiarau, through the Kohuiarau Parliament, we said 50-50. 50-50 or nothing. Okay, that's the same thing we were doing when we signed the TTR. We said, oh, cool, yeah, we don't mind sharing in governance, 50-50. That's basically what our tupuna was saying, and when they signed the TTR, that's what they were saying. They were saying, well, we agree to that 50-50 alliance if that's what you are offering through the TTR. And it's too obvious, eh? Yeah, but it all ends up in fraud, and then the New Zealand Crown ends up taking over that part of the Crown representation in the country since 1815 that was separatist, racist and feudal in its operation in the country. They did nothing, if anything, about the lawlessness in the country, which is the biggest grievance of our tupuna over the time. Okay? What was sad though is what happened is the musket wars arrived in the country and rose up, sprung up over the country. That was sad that happened, but we see that as a breakdown of the law systems of our tupuna. We don't see that in Tahumaakaakanuimatua as a great thing, although in the end we do see what the tupuna were trying to achieve, but in mid-flight, yeah, most things went out the window in mid-flight, because the ways of war changed in mid-flight, and that's what happened. People started to get far too used to that musket as the weapon of war over that time. So that was the sad part. But however, Tatauma, if we look back at the simple fact that Ngapuhi, over 3 major migrations into the country, 1 over 1,000 years ago, 2 around about 1200, 3 around about 1350. Ngapuhi came in the 3rd one. Okay? Mamwe came around about the 2nd one. That was just at the time of the first kupe. Okay, and the first kupe comes through that line. Tahumaakaakanuimatua, Mamwe, Tahumatawhaiti, Kahu, Kupe. Okay? That's what makes Mamwe ours. That's what makes the line of Kupe. Ngā toki matawhaorua of the North is one of our waka. Okay? And we know a lot of Ngapuhi come off there. And we also know that they're not just Ngapuhi, they're not just Awa, they're not just Mamwe. They're also Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay? He HapuIwi whanau-uri a Mamwe a Tahumatawhaiti a Kahu kia Tahumaakaakanuimatua HapuIwi. Okay, let's not forget, most of us forget HapuIwi in this country developed over 600 to 700 years. They took a long time to develop. Uretarewa don't come just like that. They don't come easy. And as you can see, a lot of our Hapu Uretarewa in the country remained Hapu Uretarewa, remained guard over a particular region in the country. And then sometimes different branches of that Hapu Uretarewa took different land regions across the country. Okay? The only mobile parts of our Hapu Uretarewa are the uri, or parts of the uri. Okay? Comprised of uri, whanau-uri. A lot of those moving parts within the Hapu Uretarewa moved about the country. Okay, they may have been on war errands. They might have been running certain major operations in the country. Whatever they were the particular mobile parts. Iwi stayed strong right throughout the entire national region of the HapuIwi. Okay, so this is what I wanted to share with Ngapuhi today. Does it look like Ngapuhi has that? I don't think so. I don't think so. Ngapuhi doesn't even have that, let alone 5 to 7 uretarewa, which makes up HapuIwi whanau-uri like Māmoe, Tahumaakaa or Kahu. Okay, Ngapuhi doesn't have that. So how can they be an iwi? That's my question to that part of Ngapuhi. That's my question. That if we were to settle with Ngapuhi, can we be guaranteed the customary rights and interests that we have there in the Mākeiii? I don't think so. And that's why we're opposing their settlement. We're opposing, and so are the other 6 iwi in that part of the country, to my knowledge. To my knowledge. I know the top 4 would, definitely. And not too far behind would be the 5th of the iwi. So, you know, if we get Awa and Te Atiawa Nui no Rungaterangi going against us, that's fine with us, but we have all the proof. 3,000 to 6,000 of the best for the North. Our proof over all of the land that we claim into. That is from Te Reinga, right through Te Pewhairangi, right through Te Nukuroa, including Tāmaki Makaurau, e Tatauma. All of our land claims run right back over 1,000 years. So there's no doubt to us. There's no doubt to us. All very well, groups coming up with their Crown orientated evidence, but a lot of that evidence isn't necessarily the best primary evidence around. Okay, so we want to warn against that sort of evidence becoming the norm or the primary evidence that is brought forward by groups and made to look the standard and the quality, because that's not true. Crown evidence is doubtful. Crown evidence is flawed. Crown evidence is shaky. And in fact, they're just as shaky for the North as the Ngapuhi claim. And this is why we are challenging the Crown to bring forward their proof of all these things that we're talking about today. Because I guarantee you, their Ngapuhi claim is just as weak as the Ngapuhi, this part of Ngapuhi that are claiming to have it strong, that they're an iwi, that they have a ReoTuturuoftheNorth, which we doubt very much, and that their claims to the land are rock solid. What a load of lukahu. What a load of lukahu. Okay? Okay? The only way they could have a rock solid claim is to admit to the Moriori connection through Te Tini o Toi and the intermarriages of Moriori through Ngapuhi. And then the other way is to admit to the strong intermarriages of the Māmoe and the descent lines through Māmoe, through Kahu, through Kupe the First, and to Ngā Toki Matawhāorua. And the only other way as well is all of the intermarriages and the connections of Māmoe to Tahumaakaakanuimatua, one of the most powerful HapuIwi in the country and the most senior, and still one of the most powerful HapuIwi in the country and among the most senior. Okay? Highly intermarried from right throughout Tahumaakaakanuimatua as well. That includes in Te Rarawa, that includes in Te Aupōuri, that includes in, not so highly in Te Aupōuri, but there are some intermarriage there, Te Rarawa Kahu as well, mostly in Rahiri, mostly in Te Pēwhairangi, mostly in also Tāmaki Makaurau areas. Most of our intermarriages, we're talking around Nukutawhiti as well, e Tatauma. So, yeah, that's a lot to think about for this part of Ngapuhi. Obviously, we want to discourage your direction. Okay? And we bring the challenge to the crown, just as we did in Wairarapataratua and as we're doing in Heretaunga Wairua, eta tauma. The crown, eta. Lukahu. The krauna, kairaroke putuana. Kairaroke hoki e putuana, horo mikau atuana i te māna wanawa. Whawhai atu ki te māna wanawa a te krauna. Tatatonu hoki te tāpuke ki te wai. Tori mihaere noa a te krauna. Eta. Aroha mai. Got some people trying to ring through. I'll just block that there. Sorry. Busy right now. And so, yeah. E tātou mā, when you consider all those facts, when you consider all those figures, when you consider all the evidence that we have behind that, Crown evidence, yeah, we've got a lot of that too, a lot of land court, a lot of deeds and stuff like that, from 1815 right through 1840s, right through, we've got all of that. A lot of the archival, we've got all of that. All of the written material, we've destroyed most of it, because most of the written material for the North is a lot worse than we have for the West and the East. The West and the East was quite subtle and appeared to be very, very factual, whereas in fact it's not. Up in the North, absolute load of lukau. Yeah, absolute lukau in the North. Most of the writings, that's the 80 years from the late 1890s right through to the 1970s. All those writers from between that time, Rūkahu katoa in the North. Rūkahu katoa. Okay? Kairaro ke huki e putuana. Kairaro ke huki e putuana ki te pono o te kupu, ki te tino o te kupu, ki te tūturu o te kōrero. Ngā whakapapa kōrero, kai te ngaro. Ngaro hoki, i roto ngā kōrero. O te Pākehā tonu nei te nuinga. Okay, Pākehā tonu nei te nuinga. O te kaituhi, i roto te Mākei. You know, most of the writers through that time, mostly Pākehā authors, some of the most well known for the North. And they paraded around Aotearoa like they, you know, they wanted to appear mō hio tonu hoki nā tau ki tō tātou mātau reo. Ki ngā reo o Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Putātu ki roto Tutura te matua. Putātu hoki ki roto te awa. Putātu hoki ki roto mō ai HapuIwi. Okay, so yeah, e tātou mā, big challenges there. But the major thing you need to do is make that decision to come back into the right way, because customary is the way to go in the North. Customarily focused, customarily thinking. Okay, we've got to work to a degree, we can compromise with the Crown to some degree. But the Crown needs to come to terms with some of the fact that a lot of what their process wants is absolutely ridiculous. You know? Po raru hoki a te peanuts a te krauna. You know? Po raru hoki. You know, we are not silly. But the process requires of you some of the craziest things they ask for. That ask you to compromise your whole heritage, spiritually and culturally, your entire heritage, for one thing, to go under an LNG that is junior to you. You know, they don't realize the magnitude of that. And, you know, it wasn't until 2016 they realized what we were talking about, the magnitude of having to do something like that. So that wasn't something we were prepared to do, and we still won't do it. And I bet you they're not surprised now. They were back then, and they were surprised right up to 2016. But then they pretty much agreed that everything goes under Tahumaakaakanuimatua. It came out official in 2022. Now what we have is some agreement between us. And also official settlement of Tahumaakaakanuimatua in Wairarapa. And yet to come, settlement in Whakataunga as well. But we'll see how we go up there. We know they're getting some sort of collective capacity going, a lot more collective capacity going up there in Whakataunga at the moment. But we're yet to see any opposition to what's happening for us at the moment. And at the moment, it seems we're still agreeable to everything remaining within Tahumaakaakanuimatua. There would be an entire settlement, not just within Wairarapa, but also Whakataunga Wairua under Tahumaakaakanuimatua. That would be under us and the leadership of Y225, which is me. Okay, and that's a history-making achievement if we can achieve that. Just Wairarapa alone is groundbreaking and history-making. And for Tahumaakaakanuimatua Tuturu, yes, obviously history-making. We would never have dreamed of that ever happening in 1998 when we first established all of our re-establishments of the iwi, of the HapuIwi, the establishments that developed right through there, or the establishments that we already had on us, and the growth and the advancement that we've made right through the last 27 years. E tatauma, unbelievable. And we took it to the Crown process from 2009 right through to now. And we're still taking it to them. We're not giving them an inch. It's go under us or nothing. And if it's nothing, that's not what they want. See? This kahuinu can't settle under Tahumaakaakanuimatua because that's us. You need us to be able to do that. Okay? We're the Tuturu lead of Tahumaakaakanuimatua. We have the official lead of Tahumaakaakanuimatua. All the everlasting establishments from the ground up, from the sky down, of our Tupuna mātua is in us. Not in Kahungunu Rangitane, who would be dreaming to have anything like that. Okay, all entrusted in us. So, and we've more than proven our worth and our value, our experience, our knowledge, our tūtirutanga, our te ao kōhatu, our skills and attributes, the chiefliness we bring, the maturity we bring within the two ākana lines, the good example, the great examples that we've shown over the years. You know, that must grow and grow and grow and continue to advance. I've even brought the Taiōpuru Ariki Mataura through years of some of the most difficult times for Tahumaakaakanuimatua. an accolade within itself. You know, we've brought the Tai Ōpuru Ariki Matauda through, and we've championed over times and over the system now, that over the times from 1840 took total control of us and just about destroyed us. Okay? We've now turned the tables on that particular process, and we have them gasping for air, like I said before. Ai. Tori mi hae renua. Kaha nei te hopu atu ki te mānawanawa. A koro ake atu ne. Hoia te krāunga I roto I nei wā. Tata tori mi tata tāpuke ki te wai. Okay, so e tatauma, Ngapuhi, that particular part of Ngapuhi, we need to move on from there. Particularly aware that we've covered the reo really well there. The reo of Rākainui, they even misinterpreted in the north. The reo of Tahumaakaakanuimatua, that's the reo where, for the name Kahungunu, you say Kahungungu. Ko tō Tahumaakaakanuimatua tērā reo. Okay? Rākainui, Kahuhunuhunu. Ko ia tērā reo. See? They would know those words in the north. Kahuhunuhunu. They know the dialectual phrasing of that particular word in the north. Kahuhunuhunu. You know what they thought? All these reo were Ngapuhi. Kei te he tēnā. Me te reo e ki ane Ngapuhi ki te Mākeiii. You know, hakarongo, e rā kupuna, e mahue atu ana I te wā, tērā o ngāoro, kai te he tā mea nei, tā Ngapuhi nei te ki, eta, no Ngapuhi tērā reo, kai te he tērā. Those concepts all come through, re kohu all come through, te pito te hinua. Yeah, you people are gravely mistaken about that. Okay? The reo of TeTiriti&ToTahumaakaa, te āpiti atu o te ngā. Ati pai? Tēnā, ko te ngā. Te nganga, ko te nāna. E rā tua Whakataunga katoa. Tērā o ngā reo, TeTiriti&Tomatua tērā. TeTiriti&Tomatua. Okay? Te tiriti o Waitani I wakatonua ai ki roto Waitani I wakatonua ai ki roto Waitani ki tērā rohe wenua Mohio tonu anō ai ki roto tēnei rā, ki te ao tonu nei, ko Waitani, tērā o nāreo, ko tō, e tāi, you know, tērā o ngāreo, ko tō mō ai hapu. Te tani hoki rā, ki tērā o ngāro he wenua, ko tērā o ngā reo, ko tērā o ngā reo, ko tō te awa, anei rā, ko tō mātou Tahumaakaakanuimatua, tētahi o te reo kare mōhiotiana ki te Mākeiii. Pōhehe katoa ana koto te reo Māui kai te he tērā. Uri whanau-uri a Māui, uri whanau-uri a Māui. Nā reira e hara tērā reo i te reo Māui. Te reo mātau, e reo mahu e atu i te ha. E reo whakawēnua atu. Whakawēnua atu. Ki roto ki ngā rohe whenua katoa o Tahumaakaakanuimatua i ua atu ai. Ko tahi manu tau, tu atu ki mua. Kimuri tonu hoki. Putanoa. Puta katoa atu ki te motu, tau atu hoki, tau atu. Puta tonu anō ki roto te Mākeiii. Te Mākeiii. I just thought I'd sound that because I've had questions. People go, Mākeiii, how do you say that properly? It's Mākeiii. The MaakeiiKouMei. The MaakeiiKouMei. Just like for Moki Ou, for the Southern Division, I said to them, Moki Ou. Koia nā te TeTaiTokerauAukatiTai. Moki Ou. Koia tonu tēnā te whakahuatia tika, tūturu o tēnā o te kupu. Hawhau ao mō. Koia nā te mea tūturu, te whakahua tika tūturu o tēnā o te kupu. Hawhau ao mō. Te tai rāwhiti o re e komau. O re e komau. Ai te pai? Hawhau ao mō. MaakeiiKouMei. Moki Ou. And another thing, someone suggested to me that if there, because sometimes we have double vowels there, what they noticed, because I said Daniel in our ReoAwa is Ngapuhi. So they said, so you have double vowels sometimes, but one of the vowels has got a macron, and I said, tika hoki. And so that's the case sometimes, not all the time. Okay, so some words like for MeakeiiKouMei is a place in Thailand. I forget the name of the place. MeakeiiKouMei. So it's M-E-K-A-A. And so it's me. So there's a macron on the e. K-A-A. And the last R has got a macron. So it's MeakeiiKouMei. Just like for the name of how we say America or the USA, we say KouKouAfa. KouKouAfa. So it's KouKouAWHA. So the second A has got a macron on, where you get the double A, you get the second with a macron, and the first O sound. So it's K-O with a macron, K-O-U-A, and then the second A, macron, and W-H, and then a final A. KouKouAfa. That's how we say America. That's our old Mayan Indian name for the USA. Kōkouaawha. Okay? And Arcadio for California, CA for CA. Arcadio. Arcadio. So it's A-K-A-A. Oh, sorry, that hasn't got a second vowel sound. That's just Arcadio for CA. And Ngeo Pore Kauiu. Ngeo Pore is just a fancy way of saying angels. So Kauiu, metro or city of angels for LA. CA Arcadio, Kōkouaawha. So yeah, there's some of our ReoAwa going on there. We've got a bit of that coming up in PaeperaKoroutu. We're going to look at the reo for a little bit there. That's why I thought I'd mention that. And also we've got a couple of devices there, literary devices and literary forms there to work through today. Okay, so that's pretty clear, eh? That's pretty clear. Our hold on the reo amongst the Ngapuhi, and that's why there's such a mixed bag today. Remember me first saying that? One of my first videos I did on the North, I said, a bit of a mixed bag we've got up there, and that's why. Because Ngapuhi has never been that strong on the reo. Though you've got some of your people up there have been quite strong on ReoTuturuo, but it's either ReoTuturuo that's come from Puka Puka, or it's ReoTuturuo that's come from people that are not native, or other sources. A lot of the reo in the North even has come from, te Paepera. That's well known up there. A lot of the Paepera ways of using te reo up there is quite common. Or you have your awa, your direct awa influence up there, which is the strongest part of the reo up there. Awa Tūhoe as well. Tūhoe has a strong influence in the Ngapuhi there. That's why you can't totally count it out. But for Ngapuhi Tūturu, kai te he tātou, ki te ki tātou, reo take katoa Ngapuhi ki roto tēnei rā, kai te he tēnā. Okay, I would say Ngapuhi is scratching for nativity. That's what we find in most of the evidence up there. And yeah, I guess we've moved through that pretty quickly. I've sort of tried to summarize it because there's a lot going on there. And we need to be very, very sure about our interpretations of things in the North. Yeah, we're doing pretty well, but for time wise, I think, nearly 12:30 I think I started, so we're just on over 1:30. We're coming up to 2, probably about 2:30, 2:45. I'll probably look to pack it up here for the North. So big challenges there for that group, and we directly oppose the Crown claim in the North that it's Ngapuhi in the North. Kei te he tēnā kore kau o koutou te karauna te taunahanaha tūpuna ki roto te Mākeiʻi no mātai no ngā tūpuna mātua omua I te kotahi mano tau omua ki tēnei rā ngā taunahanahatanga ki roto te Mākeiʻi. So the Crown, Crown claim up there to a Ngapuhi totally You know, they used to claim that 30 years ago it was totally Ngapuhi. Kai te tino he, tēnā. Tino he. Koe te pai, even the reo, kore ka. Harakau te reo o Ngapuhi, te reo o roto te Mākeiii. Very diverse the reo up there, eh? Okay. E reo huhua. He reo HapuIwi. He reo Hapu UretarewaHapu whanau-uri. Koinana te reo ki te Mākeiii. A hoi anō he reo he tikanga, he tika, he kaua. He ahurea hono rawa ke atu. Ki roto ki te moana nui a kiwa. Okay, so we need to be into Pacifica, we need to be well aware of our connections there as well, from the Mākeiii. And then we get the major connection is the Moai connection, the Mākeiii, and this is one of the major reasons it's called the Mākeiii, is the connection with the stars. In particular, te makemake, te makenui, te makenui. Okay, and te makenui is the descent line. That particular planet, that particular star, is the descent line of Moai. Moai HapuIwi, Tewa HapuIwi, Tahumaakaakanuimatua HapuIwi, Mā moe HapuIwi whanau-uri, Moriori HapuIwi, Awa HapuIwi, quote unquote, putatua no rahuki kia te atio nui no runga te rangi HapuIwi. Okay? Kuna nā o tātou mātou HapuIwi ki te motu. Kuna nā hoki o tātou mātou HapuIwi. Okay, Tatama, so we have some great kōrero coming through there. Okay, and just to add to that kōrero, that's our update basically, is that particular part of Ngapuhi needs to back it up. I think more of the direction of the others, or try to find some compromises there, or even to unite against the Crown would be a lot better way to go, rather than I think a lot of how kahungunu rangitane tried to move in the past is that we used to get cheeky about that. They brown-nosed a lot, the Crown brown-nosed the Crown a lot, and that got them nowhere. We said to them back, and I can remember that clearly, between 2010 2012, we said to them, they can brown-nose the Crown all they like. We're going to take out everybody, including the Crown. Yeah, we're going to oppose you all. And whakangarahu katoa, ia koutou katoa. Okay, so we in opposing them, we've come to such a massive conclusion where everything can now be as rightfully it should be under Tahumaakaakanuimatua, Waitarapataraua, and TeTiriti&ToTahumaakaa. We just hope they're focused in TeTiriti&ToTahumaakaa to be able to do that. It's not so difficult, they just have to realise a lot of the things they were doing wrong before. And that the evidence that we have for Tahumaakaakanuimatua far outweighs anything that they've got for kahungunu rangitane or the Crown. That's the biggest one, is that the Crown kairaro ke putuana. Kairaro ke hoki e putuana te karauna mairano. Kai te pai? So, kua nui pēr tērā. Kua nui pēr tērā ngā kōrero ia Ngapuhi. Tērā wahanga ki a Ngapuhi e raruana. E riro atu ana kiko. Riro ana te titiro ki wāhike, ki wāhike, ki wāhike, ki ko, ki ko, ki ko. I runga i te rangi ruatanga. Kore nei, e tino mōhio, kai whai ahua tuana, te ihu o te waka. O, you know, me pe whahoki rā nei, you know, me pe whahoki rā nei te urungi atu o te waka. Ki whea rā nei tērā huringa o te waka. Ki whea rā nei tērā. Ki whea rā nei hoki tērā hai haere mā rātau. Anei. Ko te tūturutanga kai tēnei pitoke. Kai tēnei pitoke. Okay? The way of the tuturu is the way to go. Even though that's adapting and changing too, and becoming stronger in the adapting. See, this is the other thing, is that seniorships are taking us on to greater strengths, greater advancements through the direction that they're taking everyone. They're not just taking everyone tuturu, but to greater advancements as well. Kai te kaha areke, pakari haereak, kaha haereak, te haere, o tātou mātou, i roto i ngā haeretanga, i roto i te urungi, te huringa o te waka kiwhea, kai te kaha ke ake, tō tātou mātou urungi, tō tātou mātou haere, eta, pouri atu, just, one of my Indian friends keeps trying. Surely he knows by now that I'm busy. We should be able to see the video somehow on my page. So let's just quickly go into the operations of Hapu Uretarewa whanau-uri. Now we know that they are regionally focused. We know that they are locally focused. Why? Because they operate around a particular piece of land, a highly valued piece of land, and their focus was that land. Koe nana hoki tō rātau wenua, e tino ahua tuana te kōrero te whakaaro, ahanei, i roto tō te tūturu, ai titiro mā rātau, ki roto ki ngā wā, ki tau wenua. Okay, so everything that they did in the day or night was within the focus of their particular region of the land. That's the job of the Hapu Uretarewa. It's different branches into different lands around the country. Kai te pērā tonu hoki. No, they did the same thing. Kai te pērā rawa tonu. And on that same level. You know, they were guards for those, a bit like a taiōpuru, the setup, but more so a junior ariki setup, more so rather than a taiōpuru, but very much like a taiōpuru. E tatauma. So that's how Hapu Uretarewa was set up. Yeah. And then you get the junior ariki right through, focusing on different parts of land, etc. And look, e tatauma, we know for a fact that with Hapu Uretarewa whanau-uri, usually, depending on how many you have in your iwi, like for our HapuIwi, we've got 12 of them. See, so there's 12 right throughout the mutu, and different branches of those 12 go right throughout the mutu, te mea. Like the branches for Tahumaakaakanuimatua in the north, particular branches of Māmoe in the north, into Ngātoki Matawhāorua, te mea. And all of the other branches of our Hapu Uretarewa we're particularly focused on different regions of the north. Depending on their seniority, if they were amongst, say, I know for Tahumaakaakanuimatua, if they were amongst the Uretarewa from the 7th line descent, which is the Taina line descent of Tahumaakaakanuimatua. That's the 7th line descent, which is Uri whanau-uri, Te Whatu Ia Piti. Through those lines, though, are Hapu Uretarewa whanau-uri, such as Te Matarahimatua, which is where Te Whatu Ia Piti comes down there, the last line. And there Uri whanau-uri. Now, because Te Matarahimatua is the third of the Uretarewa whanau-uri, and they hold 2 of the top 6. Two of the top 6 of the lines of the whole HapuIwi. They perform most of the more integral tasks of the upper chiefly ranks of the HapuIwi, and more of the obligations and responsibilities and commitments of the top. Okay, so those particular Uretarewa whanau-uri, you would find, they would people lands mostly within, they'd be further inland. See? It's the same in the north. Same in Wairarapa-Tararua, same in Te TTR-Aukatitai. We note our Tahumaakaakanuimatua tribal groups. Most of the more junior of them, though, were particularly coastal. Okay, so those right on the coast, you'll find they're the more junior. Okay, and so these are the people on the ground. Officially, these are the ones with authority on the ground. This is where the biggest chiefs came through in the junior lines. So from the 7th line of Tahumaakaakanuimatua down, you'll find most of their lines spread out into the coastal areas. Okay, that's where junior ships usually peopled, with the coastal areas. They're like your front line. Okay, they took security over your coastal areas. Okay, so they were like your frontliners. Senior ships usually gravitated to the heart of the complex makeup of our tribal groups in the organization. Okay, and they are the main line. I mean, we talk about heartwood. Koina rā hoki te heartwood e kōrero hia nei I roto Tahumaakaakanuimatua. When we talk about heartwood, that's the strongest, the most durable, the best part of the heart of the wood is heartwood. Okay, if we look at a rākau like that, in that fashion, in terms of how we organised our tribes. Hapu Uretarewa whanau-uri, the more senior, the more inland. The more junior, the more shoreline our bases. Okay? And I'm going to leave that part there, and the main reason for that e tatauma, because within Hapu Uretarewa whanau-uri, and all these areas, all these aspects are unifying aspects of our culture. These are the sorts of things we're trying to, where they're not re-established within the country, within our regions. And so that is Tuturu. So most of the inner areas of the lands you'll find are the more senior groups. They inhabited those areas. Okay? The last line of any defence is always the senior lanes. Okay? And it doesn't matter which area of land that your Hapu Uretarewa inhabits. The same thing, organisation runs the same way. And that is particular within Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And we're pretty sure these are some of the similarities we have amongst iwi, HapuIwi. Yeah. Okay. Aroha mai, e tatama, oops. My PC getting rocked a little bit there. Yeah. Okay, so we have some very interesting detail there that I wanted to share for the North, because it's the same in the North. It's no difference. Okay, and we notice most of the tribes up there haven't yet taken note of that. Okay, and then you look at the strength of the Ngapuhi claims. Most of their claims are inland. That can't be right. There's too many seniorships in the North for most of the Ngapuhi claims to be inland. Ngapuhi is one of the most junior groups up there, the Ngapuhi. So that part of Ngapuhi that's claiming all those things needs to have a good look at the way they're claiming. Plus, like what I said before, te taunahanahatanga tupuna ki te Mākeiii no mātau kehuki. From the originals down. That's where the greater claim is. That's what I'm saying. The greater claim is from us down. It's not from Ngapuhi up. It's from us down. Okay? The only group, the only iwi more junior than Ngapuhi uri whanau-uri is Te Atiawa Nui no Rungaterangi. Okay? And that's the last line of HapuIwi of the country. That's Tūturu. That's Aokōhatu. Okay, e tatama, and the reason I wanted to hold it up there is because we're going to quickly get on to our PaeperaKoroutu soon, which is quite lengthy in some parts because of the first two literary forms there. So I need to stay aware of my timing. I'm just trying to do that now. And make sure that we don't miss that timing. And also the traditional unity aspects. One of the ones I've already shared in the North that we're trying to work with is the teina tuakana aspect. That we need to work a lot better and a lot more often, a lot more regularly in the North, from right throughout everything that we do. What we noticed amongst the North is that there were a lot of disputes around the most trivial matters. And what we noticed among those matters is that they had a tuakana aspect and a teina aspect. Etama, this is what we said. Mai te tuakana ki te teina, te āhuatanga ki I o tātou mātou tūpuna, I roto mea iwi, mea hapu, pērā tonu ke hoki, kāre e tīni ana, kāre e whakaputa ke e atu ana, I roto I a tātou mātou. Te tuakana ki te teina, kāre rereke. Atu I e tahi mea rua, toru noiho. There's only a few acceptances. Okay, remember the interchangeability of things? Where sometimes the junior, but that's very rare. That's nothing to write home about. Okay? The interchangeability of things can give a junior line. Pērai taku junior line I roto te atiawa. Mehe mea ahau ki te huki pēra, ki roto te atiawa. Teina kei ahau ki reina. I roto te whitita whirikura. Hoi anō teina ke hoki au I reira. Me taku e rā tū āhuatanga katoa I roto no taku tūpuna no awa tonu, koro ati awa, a hoi anō, ko tō te HapuIwi e kōrero hia nei, te mana e kōrero hia ana nei. I roto I taku kōrero e mea tine, kua hua no te teina I reira. See, so the teina line holds far more authority there in that particular instance. But very, very rare are those occasions. So we don't need to worry too much about that. Usually, ni te tonu hoki tō tātou kite nei, I ngā tūāhuatanga ka pērā tonu anō hoki, ka re titīni, kore rawa hoki e putake. Okay, there's never any change. Tūākana ki te teina, ka re pērā ke hoki. Okay? Ka re pērā ke hoki. Okay, so all these things, they started to organise them into tūākana teina arrangement. Ana, katau. Katau e rā tūāhuatanga e tautohe tiana I te wāroa. E takaroa ana ki te tohe haere. Because we got tūākana teina ways of operating those things, working within those areas. And that was really cool. But the main reason we want to leave those two areas largely for the north and not talk too much on those areas today is not because we don't want any traditional unity, but it's because the main, the primary way for traditional unity and the aspects and concepts of traditional unity to work properly, adequately, and to have a quality base from which to grow and advance upon, we need all the tribal organisation and all that stuff sorted out first. Okay, so whilst we've got a part of Ngapuhi, like the pekake hoki, we can't really, kai te paruri e rā tāngata o roto Ngapuhi, while they're diverging to a different way, you can't really instate unity and utilize those aspects and concepts in that particular way. Okay, to create traditional unity, you need to create it from that basis that everything is kai te tika. Te pūtaketanga no nā noa, no te ao kōhatu, kai te ū I roto I e rā wā, kai te tika, kai te pono rawa, he tūturu ke hoki, e rā mea katoa. Okay? Once you have those things, then those traditional aspects of unity can work, can have substance. Kare parurike, kare tā kuki haere, kare, kare pērā I te tāngatara, hanga ai tōna whare ki runga ki te o nepu, Unlike the person that establishes their whare on the sand. We know what happens to that house. If you tried for unity within that whare, one day it would fall through. And we don't want that to happen in the north. So we've got to get ourselves organised properly first. And then we can start working all of those concepts and aspects of our traditional unity from our cultural, spiritual heritage, our whakapapa and whakapapa kōrero. Mea kai te tika, ka tū, te kotahitanga I roto I ngā mea katoa, putatu I te uri whanau-uri, putatu anō hoki te hapu uretarewa whanau-uri, Pitauti katoa I te HapuIwi whanau-uri a. I te katoa nohoki I te HapuIwi. E tatauma? So we'll leave that there. We'll leave that there for now. A bit different how we were talking around the TTR for Whakataunga Wairua seems to be coming together there. Same for Wairua seems to be coming together there. So we've started talking around those things, around those areas. I just wanted to mention a little bit for the north and then move on from there into PaeperaKoroutu e tatauma. PaeperaKoroutu. Have I missed anything out there? No. I've got everything pretty right for the north there. And so let's get on to PaeperaKoroutu e tatauma, where we're focusing on the literary forms or the structure of our writing that we want to write within in order to get our message best across. A lot of aroha mai. A lot of those I'm just trying to open up my booklet in here. The 5 tools for spiritual growth. If you looked back on my video from last week, within the comments I put the title and author of the 5 tools for spiritual growth into the comments section there, and so you'll find that in there. And I'm just opening that up now, and let me turn the volume right down on this. No, that's not the one we're on. And so for PaeperaKoroutu, best for us to understand clearly these things. Though we don't need to, you can still translate or even understand the Bible without knowing these things. If you just wanted a straight translation, the problem with a straight translation is your reo still needs to be good enough. And the sad thing is that the missionaries reo was always never going to be good enough. Okay? But the way things have been translated here within the Paepera Tapu is that they have worked way under par. Okay? Now I'm just trying to find the section here of here we go. The literary forms. Our 2 literary forms today, e tatauma, are prophecy and gospel. Okay? So there are prophecy accounts and there are gospel accounts right throughout the Bible as well. And it's safer to say that it's good to understand these things, though, it's not compulsory. And you could also translate a Bible quite easily if your reo was good enough, just to go straight through it. But, we want to take extra care as we're moving through the Bible, so we're encouraging you to take extra care as well about exactly what the Father's word is saying to us exactly. Getting as much clarity on the word as we possibly can is probably the best thing for us. So, e tatauma, we need to be able to work hard at that clarity. And one of the ways of working harder for that clarity, to find that clarity, is to get to know the literary forms and literary devices better than we do. Okay? And so that's why we're encouraging you to do that. We're sharing them with you. Aroha mai e tatauma. Have I got it there? Yes, I've got it there. And so that's why we're doing that. We're making sure we know them, and that and all because we've included them in our formats to our translations. We will be following these particular aspects of the writings that have produced for us the word of the Father, the Father's word, and help to bring it to us in the clarity that it does. Okay, of course we want that to translate into te reo. For this first version, for PaeperaKoroutu, we want it to translate into te reo matua o Tahumaakaakanuimatua. What we don't want is to go in ignorantly of all these things, and the areas of translating and depending on the Holy Spirit to do its part as well within translations, but to have all of the professionalism, the expertise available to us in order to do the best job that we possibly can for the reo, and or because we know that the paipera tapu doesn't bring that for us. Okay, so and this is the first iwi one, and to be an iwi one, a HapuIwi version, look, we need it to be the best that it can be from Tahumaakaakanuimatua. We do a bad job, that's going to come back on Tahumaakaakanuimatua. But if we do a good job, if we do this well, then we're going to be a good example. We're going to do a very thorough job as a HapuIwi, and hopefully we would have encouraged other HapuIwi to do the same within their reo. And you'll see all the differences of reo in the country within the HapuIwi reo. Okay, prophecy. Prophecy is what God has done, is doing, and will do. This is on page in the 5 tools for spiritual growth. Page 114 to 115. Prophecy. In its simplest form, prophecy includes anything anyone says under the inspiration of God. According to Thayer's Greek lexicon, that includes reproving and admonishing the wicked, or comforting the afflicted, or revealing things hidden, especially by foretelling future events. Generally, though, when people talk about prophecy, they're referring to that last category, the foretelling of future events. Over a quarter of the Bible contains these kinds of predictive prophecies, and they often appear in poetic form. Many Old Testament books are dedicated entirely to prophecies of the future. We often refer to these books as the major and minor prophets. That is, the prophets with long books, major, and the prophets with shorter books, minor. That's like for me, I'm on to the minor prophets. I've just finished reading Daniel, going into Hosea. I've got Jonah and all of them to come, Micah, and what's that last one? Malachi. Malachi is the last one, so you've got all these junior prophets, Amos and all of them. And they're my last books to read, from my first read through the entirety of the Bible, because I read both the Old Testament and the New Testament together, and then I finished the New Testament early, knowing that I didn't want to go through the whole of the Old Testament and then get to read the New Testament, because I already knew that everything in the Old Testament points towards the New Testament and the Lord, Christ Jesus, in the New Testament. So I decided to read them both together, and I finished the New Testament, and now I've got from Hosea onwards to finish in the Old Testament. The minor prophets. But prophecies are sprinkled throughout the Bible, from the first prophecy about Jesus Christ all the way back in Genesis 3:15. Compare Romans 16:20 to Christ's final promise to us in Revelation 22 verse 20. There are three main types of prophecies: future prophecies, fulfilled prophecies, and prophecies with dual or multiple fulfillments. We can find examples of all three in the book of Daniel. Future prophecies refer to events that God promises will happen in the future. All prophecies begin as future prophecies. Daniel was told of a time when many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. 12:2. These resurrections haven't yet come to pass, but they will. They are an integral part of God's plan, and we can count on their happening. Fulfilled prophecies. Fulfilled prophecies have already come and gone. For example, God gave Daniel a vision of the kings of Media and Persia, Daniel 8 verse 20, being defeated by the kingdom of Greece, verse 21, after which Greece would splinter into 4 kingdoms, but not with its power, verse 22. That prophecy was fulfilled when Alexander the Great conquered the Medo-Persian Empire in 331 BC, with his kingdom splintering into 4 warring factions after his death in 323 BC. Okay, interesting, eh? Dual fulfillment prophecies are prophecies that God intends to fulfill more than once. Daniel received a warning about the abomination of desolation, which would be established in God's temple by a king who would take away the daily sacrifices, Daniel 11:31. This was first fulfilled by a Seleucid king, Antiochus Epiphanes, who defiled God's temple in 167 BC by setting up a statue of Zeus and having biblically unclean swine sacrificed on the altar. I just finished reading about that in Daniel. And yet, 200 years later, Jesus warned the Jews of Jerusalem, "When you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel, the prophet, standing in the holy place, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains." Matthew 24, verse 15 through to verse 16. Although the abomination of desolation had already happened once, Jesus was explaining that it was going to happen again. Okay, awesome example there, eh? Prophecy can be difficult to interpret with exact precision. Some prophecies are fairly clear and give us an outline of what is to come, but other prophecies rely on imagery that can be interpreted and misinterpreted different ways, and it's not always clear what prophecies are awaiting a second fulfillment. Unless God himself explains them, we should be cautious about adopting a firm stance on particular prophecies. Remember that Jesus Christ's first coming was prophesied many times in the Old Testament over the course of thousands of years, and yet everyone, including his own disciples, misunderstood the role he had come to play. Matthew 16:21, verse 21 through to verse 23. After Jesus died and was resurrected, he walked his disciples through the relevant prophecies concerning himself. Luke 24, verse 13 through to 35. The prophecies had been there all along, but they didn't make sense until God himself connected the dots. If prophecy is so easy to misunderstand, why study it at all? Good question. for two reasons. First, fulfilled prophecies are a reminder that God is in control of everything, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times, things that are not yet done, saying, "My counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. My counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure." Isaiah 46:10. Second, unfulfilled prophecies offer us a glimpse into important future events that God has promised to bring about. By familiarizing ourselves with the outline of these events, we can begin to see the beauty of a plan that has been unfolding for thousands of years and which will continue to unfold long into the future. To paraphrase the Apostle Paul, now all we can see of God is like a cloudy picture in a mirror. Later we will see him face to face. We don't know everything, but then we will, just as God completely understands us. 1 Corinthians 13:12, verse 12, Contemporary English Version. Prophecy is our glimpse into a cloudy mirror, but even that cloudy glimpse can encourage us to stay focused on and dedicated to God and his plan. Examples of prophecies in the Bible: Jacob's last words to his sons, Genesis 49, 1-28. The major and minor prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Obadiah, Malachi, etc. Matthew 24, and the whole of Revelation. Okay, and the second literary form for PaeperaKoroutu today is Gospel accounts. Why the life and death of Jesus Christ serves as a cornerstone of our Christian identity. The Bible's four Gospel accounts, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are a special kind of narrative account. Each Gospel provides a unique perspective on the same historic event, the life and death of Jesus Christ. The word gospel is translated from the Greek word evangelion, meaning good news. The four Gospels appear to each have been intended for different audiences, as they each focus on different aspects of what Jesus said and did during his human life on earth. Matthew, also known as Levi, was a Jewish tax collector who became a disciple of Jesus Christ. His Gospel account highlights Christ's role as the prophesied Son of David, Matthew 1:1, continually pointing out the events and actions that fulfilled what was spoken, Matthew 2:17, by the prophets. Mark, whose full name was John Mark, is attested in early church literature as the author of the Gospel of Mark. This same literature also suggests that Mark wrote his account based on the preaching of the Apostle Peter. Okay, and John Mark, it just reminded me of one of those double vowels where the second vowel, second part of the voweling ends up a macron on the top. That is for John, Hamata, and Mark, Tikokoi. Tikokoi is Mark. So Hamata, Tikokoi is Mark's name in ReoAwa. Okay, and Otu TKIA. And so that's how you say John Mark. So Hamata, that's Hamata. So if you want to say an abbreviated name for John, it's Hama. Tikokoi. Tukokoi. Okay. This Gospel account, Mark's Gospel account, highlights Christ's role as the Son of God, Mark 1:1, and is written with a sense of urgency. He used the word immediately 36 times, writing the entire book as if events were actively unfolding around the reader. Luke was identified by Paul as the beloved physician, quote unquote. Colossians 4:14. A Gentile believer, there's a whole lot of quote unquotes in here. A Gentile believer who became a disciple of Jesus Christ. His gospel account highlights Christ's role as, quote unquote, the Son of Man. Luke 5:24. Emphasizing the compassion and humanity displayed by Jesus. Luke's account also shines a spotlight on the women of the early church. John Hamaata was, quote unquote, the disciple whom Jesus loved. Hamaata John 21:20, and according to extra biblical sources, the last surviving apostle. His gospel account highlights Christ's role as, quote unquote, the Word. John 1:1, a divine being who was with God while also being God, who temporarily became, quote unquote, became flesh and dwelt among us. Verse 14. John made sure to emphasize that Jesus was entirely divine and entirely human, likely in an effort to combat the growing movement of Gnosticism, which argued that Jesus only appeared to have come in the flesh. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are sometimes called the Synoptic Gospels, as a fancy word meaning, quote unquote, taking a common view. The Synoptic Gospels generally approach Christ's life from similar angles and discuss the same general events. John's Gospel, on the other hand, records many events not discussed in the other three. Gospel accounts in the Bible: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Okay, and that's our two literary forms for today. I'll just forward to our literary devices, and while I'm doing that, talk about a little bit on Te Reo. Now for Te Reo Hapu, I'll just talk briefly on Te Reo Hapu, because I've got the note here. Te Reo Hapu, a little bit of difficulty going on there. It's not a great struggle, it's not a great difficulty. In fact, it might be a good difficulty to have. And what that entails is that one of the things that, and we're planning for these sorts of things. We're planning for things that might need our attention or our reviewing as we go through the entirety of our projects. But this is for the second Bible anyway, so it's no emergency or nothing of great urgency. But we just wanted to mention that with the Reo Hapu, one of the things, because we used to utilizing the Reo Hapu, but we're forgetting that it's biblical. What we're sharing with everyone around the world is biblical. The Reo Hapu biblical. But if we remember, the origination of Reo Hapu is matatapu. And the difficulty we're having is maintaining that matatapu status. So what we wanted to share, and what I've got note down here, is that what we've decided, and we've had some good discussions on that, on the matatapu status, and we've realized that, and we didn't even plan for that, but we had planned for when things go a little bit outside of what we've planned, and so we have to review those things. Now, we're still going to use the Reo Hapu, the biblical side of the Reo Hapu, but it's going to end up highly non-confidential, which is defeating the purpose of the whole of the Reo Hapu. So what that means is that for those people that take on the Reo Hapu version, what they need to be able to understand is that for the use of the matatapu status or the confidentiality privacy status of that particular reo. For a reo like this to work in its original form, it usually is used without other people knowing, which is sort of back to front with other languages. Most languages you have some sort of translation available, not with this reo. Or you operate in a way where reo is familiar right across the board. Because what we're finding is that we can't keep changing words. We can't keep changing words and their meaning because people are getting confused. We can't protect the matatapu status. So one thing that we wanted to suggest to people is that when they utilize it, if they can get away with non-translation, that is a good thing with this reo. If you have to translate, then translate. There's nothing wrong with that, even though it's a language with a confidential, a privacy form of language. See, so you don't necessarily, you usually use it around people that normally, those particular people, they pay no mind to what you're talking about. Because they know, if that's your reo hapu, ana, ko te reo, tō te Pākeke tērā reo, tō te Pākeke, waiho atu tērā, tā rātau e kōrero nei te take, waiho tonu huki kia rātau. So, you typically have no problems with that. We know that with foreign languages, when people are going to town in a foreign language, it seems rude to most people. And so we're having problems dealing with that sort of thing. If you can get away with non-translation, then ka pai, tino pai tērā. That means you're holding on to the matatapu or the confidentiality or the privacy status of this form of language. If not, that's fine. Translate for people who want to know. But yeah, that's what we decided to do, just to inform people that the proper way to utilize a language like this is in private. So that even means when you're around other people. And if those people are people that don't know that language, hopefully they don't mind that you're utilizing that language around them. Usually it's around other tribes that do not know, or younger generations that haven't yet been able to grow into that particular reo. Okay, so just wanting to share that with you. Okay, let's move into and hopefully we can get that operating a lot better now. Sometimes we try to use different words for different things, but it sort of didn't work. So we've backtracked on that, and we're trying to keep things at the same wording. We're noting a lot of what we're using, because what we want to do is keep track of that so we can keep words the same now. If we do that, that should work fine, because there's so many people out there that won't know this reo anyway. So if you get into the biblical reo hapu or otu TKIA of Tahumaakaakanuimatua o Moteo, then that should uphold the confidential status, the matatapu status, the privacy status. It's a language of personal matters. It's like a top secret. It's like when you have matters of privacy of a personal nature. Koina nā tonu hoki te reo. Hei takotoa atu i rā tua huatanga i rā take kia tatau matau. He pērā tonu. Te o tū te ike iei. Okay, e tatau masa. Just wanting to share that with you. And what we've found is that everything's fine there. If you find that you need to share some of the meaning of what you're talking about, then do it. Kei te pai tērā. But always remember in the back of your mind the private nature of No te mea rā hoki, te āhua ki i tahi o te take, kōrero ai tēnei o ngā reo i te o tū TKIA. He take, taumaharawa. Taumaharawa ki te uma, ki te poho o te tangata. Taumaharawa ki te pukohiwi o te tangata, ua tonu hoki, mō rika tonu, i tērā momo tao, e rā tū āhua tangata nui tao. You know, you have a lot of those personal troubles and gripes and things that, you know, personally affect you, intimate things, a lot of those things. So you need to keep them confidential. So don't share any of that, you know. But if you need to translate certain things, you know, just give a summary. I'm talking about personal matters around and sharing them with the Lord. And hoping and praying that the Lord will bring me some comfort. Otherwise, if you can get away with it and keeping whatever matters you're sharing or talking about confidential and private, koina nā tonu te tikanga. Kai reira tonu te tikanga me te kawa. Oroto i nei tū āhuatanga katoa e kawe nei. Ka kawe haere o te o tū TKIA he pēnā tonu hoki. He matatapu. He maua tiki roto tonu o te tāngata. Te ngā kau tāngata, te whatu ngā kau. O te āhua ki te take o e kōrero. E takuto haere nei. I roto I ngā kōrero. Okay? So, yeah, it's usually for private matters. Okay, e tatauma? Matana mai. Who knows what that is? I knew nothing until I studied this. And synecdoche. These are our two. We're going to do those, work those together. And they're in the 5 Tools of Spiritual Growth, pages 124 to 125. Matana mai and synecdoche. Using stand-in words to refer to related concepts. Using stand-in words to refer to related concepts. Sometimes, rather than talk about a thing or a concept, or a concept directly, we use words related to that thing or concept. When we do that, we're using literary devices called matana mai and synecdoche, or metonymy and synecdoche. These devices show up frequently in the Bible, and even though they might have complicated names, they're pretty easy to spot. Yeah, I spot them all the time, but think I know what they're called. Karaka. Both these devices allow us to talk more concisely about abstract or complicated topics without having to stop and explain exactly what we mean. Matana mai happens when we use a symbol to refer to a related concept, like referring to a king or a queen as quote-unquote the crown, or calling businessmen quote-unquote suits. Synecdoche happens when we use a part to refer to the whole, or the whole to refer to a part, like calling a worker a quote-unquote hired hand, or referring to a car as a quote-unquote set of wheels. Okay, examples of matana mai. In Matthew 13 verse 15, Jesus said that quote-unquote the hearts of this people have grown dull. He wasn't talking about their literal blood-pumping organs. He was using quote-unquote heart as a stand-in for the human ability to think and feel. God promised his people that if they obeyed him, quote-unquote, the sword will not go through your land. Leviticus 26 verse 6. It's not that God was promising to keep sharp metal blades from entering Israel. The sword here is a stand-in for military power and war. When David wrote, "Keep your tongue from evil," quote unquote, Psalm 34 verse 13, he wasn't concerned that the tongue itself was capable of committing evil. The tongue is a stand-in for the words we speak. See also James 3, 5 through 10. Examples of synecdoche. Paul wrote that Aquila and Priscilla, quote unquote, risked their own necks for my life. Romans 16:4. It obviously wasn't just their... Oh, come on. It wasn't just their... Oh, come on. Oh, it obviously wasn't just their necks that were in danger, but their entire physical existence. In this case, the neck, a single part of the body, represents the whole body. When Jesus told the apostles to, quote unquote, preach the gospel to every creature, Mark 16 verse 15, he wasn't telling them to preach the gospel to squirrels and birds and ants. In this case, every creature, quote unquote, every living creature in the entirety of God's creation, really means every human being, a specific part of that creation. Caesar Augustus decreed that all of the world should be registered, quote unquote. Luke 2 verse 1. This could not have referred to all of the world, quote unquote, as we understand it, since that would mean taking a census of kingdoms and nations Augustus had no control over or even knowledge of. Here, the whole, all of the world, quote unquote, stands in for a specific part, the entire Roman world, quote unquote, Luke 2 verse 1 NIV. Okay, that's awesome, eh? We managed to get that through that one pretty quick for the Mākeiii, for the Mākeiii, and so we, yeah, I'm just going to keep going until the end now, and we keep going until kia pau rā no katoa noai ngā kōrero, i ngā kaupapa kōrero, TeKura-i-Awarua in the north, just like in for the other regions, even though the complex of TeKura-i-Awarua is going to be Tahumaakaakanuimatua run, te tikanga tika me te kawa te ahurea e rā tū Whakataunga katoa, te taha ki te wairua, e rā momo, te tūturutanga, te taha ki te wairua ki tō te ao nei, o Tahumaakaakanuimatua, haere noa iho nei, e rā mea katoa ki roto, ki te wānangani. So everything tūturu will run within TeKura-i-Awarua. And wherever we have it in the north, I just wanted to mention in the north, because I forgot to mention that whilst discussing it briefly in the west, in the Hawhauamo, it might be in Hokianga that we establish it, or Tāmaki Makaurau. I'm actually hoping we can establish it in the Hokianga. Although I understand that Kohuiarau might end up situated in the Hokianga. Whichever that might be, that might end up, because yeah, we notice there's a lot of congestion within the city areas, and a lot of that, a lot of the clientele and customers, etc., available to us. A lot of the markets in there could easily be guided out of the congested areas and into different areas, like what we want to do with Kaikoura in the south. So yeah, we might end up establishing TeKura-i-Awarua in the Hokianga. We'll see how we go up there in the north. But e tatauma, with each of the established wānanga, with the main part of the wānanga, the main componentry of the wānanga running Tuturu, Tahumaakaakanuimatua. We have a small component of those who wish to take English. So many thousands and thousands of people across the world. In fact, we have millions. We're among millions within 48 nations of the world. And then who knows however many more are interested in migrating to the country, immigrating to the country as immigrants, coming as immigrants to the country, and growing in indigenous language and culture. And not only growing in indigenous language and culture, but being able to have that opportunity of having tūturu, te ao kōhatu, all in one place, learning right through all the age groups, all in one place, all at the same time. Okay, and all those levels, finding easier journeys through which to matriculate in that case. Okay, so matriculation levels should rise pretty quickly through a tūturu wānanga like TeKura-i-Awarua. Okay, and remember, this is the renowned TeKura-i-Awarua of Pacifica, the most renowned of its time. Okay, the time of Tahumaakaakanuimatua, ko ia tērā te tino wānanga. Okay, of Pacifica. As the ariki taiōpuru of the country in this time, I bring TeKura-i-Awarua, tēnā o te taonga o tātou mātou. Tēnā o te kura, I roto I o mātou, o tātou mātou, mātua tūpuna, ki roto ki te motu, whakatū ai, whakaakoakoa tū ai, wānanganga atu ai, ki roto ki a tātou mātou, I ngā taonga tipu iho I te kurahuna, I roto tonu anō hoki I a rātau, I te ruanuku kōrero, I te ruarangi kōrero, I roto anō hoki te ruahine kōrero, I roto I a rātau, I roto tonu iho anō, I te taiōpuru ariki mataura, o te TeKura-i-Awarua. Ara, ko mātau tērā, ko tutura te matua tērā, ko ira tūroto te matua tērā, ko Tahumaakaakanuimatua no hoki, ko ia hoki tērā. Atipai? So we bring all of that. And within each of the regions, depending on where we establish it, like for within TeTiriti&ToTahumaakaa, we're looking to establish one of them in Te whanau-uri, so that's Napier area. So that'll be headed by the Māmoe of that area. Do you realise that? That's the main, that's HapuIwi, whanau-uri, but that's the main line, that's the tūākana line within Te whanau-uri. They will run that. They will establish on all of the kōrero I ngā tūpuna o roto tonu anō hoki a rātau ki tērā rohe wenu. Te mea katoa tūturu I roto I tērā wāhi, te rohe wenua kia te Whanganui-a-Awarua, mautonu atu ai ki roto ki te wānanga. Okay, so you will notice that in the establishments, all the names, all the reo, all of the culture and heritage, the whakapapa kōrero, te taha ki te karakia, e rā tū huatanga katoa, te taha o te ahouni, the God First, e rā tū huatanga katoa, hau atu ai, tērā te mea tuatahi, I roto I te wānanga nei. Okay, because you know, that side of our tuatuatanga comes down through our tūākana within Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay, so that will run things first. However, within the tūturu o te ao, whakahaere I roto te ao tō te kaua, ko tō te taha ki te tūturu tuatahi I roto I tērā taha ki a tātou mātou. Kai te pai tērā. Kai te pai tērā. We can't argue with that. We can't argue with that side of things. But the main run of things within the wānanga will need to be fronted by the tūākana. So in other words, there will be spaces where we can do that. So that will happen on different spaces, like for God First needs to operate ki rō whare. Okay, so it will happen within the whare. God First will lead. If anything in the whare, koia tērā. Te wāhi kia rongo, kai reira tonu anō ki tērā. Tō mātou kawa, kua huri pēnā. Okay? Within the whare, ko tō te atua anō o tātou mātou tūākana tērā tōna kawa. Whakahaere I ngā mea katoa. So we operate like that in Tahumaakaakanuimatua. When we can operate on that basis with our tūākana heading things as they should, koina rā te tino tūtiritanga o tō te tūākana o mua. They'll always lead. They were always fronting everything. And so, but when we do that, God First, we do that in the whare. We don't do that on the marae. Okay? Okay. O te tāngata whakahaere tūturu. O ngā mea katoa. O raro o te kawa tūturu, o te tika tūturu, o te tikanga anō hoki. Ki runga tonu, tai teunu poka pokake. Whakahaere ai. Kawa haere ai, tika haere ai, tikanga haere ai. Okay? And so, yeah, all those types of things, but we run them conjointly. We're not, no. Karakau e tae ana teki I roto I nei rā, kia Tahumaakaakanuimatua, ko tō ngā tūpuna tuatai. No te mea, teina ke ngā tūpuna. Teina ke rātau. We've gone right back to our ancient tūpuna who hold tūākana line. So does their atua. Okay? Because that's where we came from. We did not, this is not our originality. That's what we changed into. Okay? Okay, if we follow back into our origins, our ancient origins, we weren't how we ended up in te Nokohu originally. Okay, so we need to understand that. That's how our wānanga will run. But the important thing to remember is primarily it'll run on the space where ka whakatūtū haere tawa wānanga. Tērā peka o te o kaupeka o te wānanga. Tūai, te wāhi tonu tūai, ngā kōrero katoa ahu mai ei. Tatū mai ei. Ki roto ki tōna marae. Ki roto ki o na whare. Mai I roto tonu anohu ki tērā rohe wenua. Tēnā tīkare tau atu ai. Okay? So all of the tūpuna of that area will have special significance, and even the run of that particular wānanga, like for within Hokianga, I believe within Hokianga are other Tahumaakaakanuimatua groups, but one of the main ones in that area is Māmoe. So there's, depending on which of the lands, we'll probably look to have it in the senior lands, because Māmoe is not the senior. But then again, it depends how we want to go within Hokianga. If we decide for Māmoe, well then we've gone for the HapuIwi basis with which to establish it, and that's good. And Te Whanganui-a-Oratu, we need to see if that works within Hokianga first. If it's, not the best option within Hokianga, well then we've got other senior lines in that same area. Okay? They're just different lanes. Okay? And koina nā tonu hoki anō ngā kōrero o TeKura-i-Awarua ki reira. Okay? So the same thing will happen within Hokianga or Tāmaki Makaurau. Okay, whichever of the areas that we decide in the end that we want to establish TeKura-i-Awarua. Okay? But everything will run according to the tūturutanga and how everything is laid out today. Okay? But we will have our tūturutanga, you know, that happens, you know, te kawa o ngā tūpuna, i ngā atuatuatanga, ia io he keiho, ki roto ki a rātau e hiehia tiana tonu i tērā, ki runga ki te marae tonu, ki te umu poka poka. Ka te pai, ki te wāhiki atu, tū matauenga. Okay? Fine. Ka te pai tonu hoki tērā, but we won't be running things only that way. God first will be focused as the main focus for people. Because our tūturutanga is fine. We're okay there. We don't need to really be too worried about our tūturu focus. We've got that sorted. We've got that down. That can run as normal, but normally, I runga I te marae. If we have, you know, ngā mea o runga I te marae ka kawea tonu ki roa whare, well, ka te pai tērā. Ka te pai tērā. But we must remember that the main push within our whare is from within the God First area. So it's going to be interesting how we run that. It's going to be interesting. But I think you will find it will end up an intermingling of the two forms of kawa, which would be exciting. I can't wait to see that. Because Tahumaakaakanuimatua is like that. If we need to do that, if we need to alternate and intermingle the protocols through which we do things with, of course, God first taking the top honours, because that's the God of our tuakana. Okay, we must pay homage to them, and especially ki rō whare, ki rō whare. Tika hoki ki a tatau, tika tonu hoki ki a tatau, kia pērā tonu anō, tō tatau whakahaere pērā tonu i ngā tuahuatanga ki rō whare. Okay? So we might, like for instance, I'll give an example, we might, once we come together in the whare, we might start off with prayer. Okay, and have the prayer open up everything, and then the kōrero will begin, and you know, the first lot of kōrero. Mai tō mātau kawa, te PaeperaKoroutu o Tahumaakaakanuimatua, ngā pū kōrero kia Tahumaakaakanuimatua, pau atu ngā mea mātua, pau atu katu kōrero, ka mutu atu, ko e rā tonu I tērā taha, pau atu katoa, ka hoki mai ki tō mātau, pau ariki, pau kaumātua, pau waha kōrero, tohunga ki te kōrero, tohunga koi ki te kupu, you know, e rā tāngata ka mau atu ki tērā wāhi ki ngā kōrero. Okay, and tūturu, they can run tūturu as you like. And then we might finish off with another prayer. Pērā tonu hoki, you know, and we might intermingle that kawa within the whare. But ki te marae, mau tonu atu ki tērā tūturutanga o runga I tō runga o marae, whakahaere ai, pērā tonu anō, aira hoki o tata mātou tūpuna mātua o mua. Kia rātau anō o mua, I roto I a rātau anō o mua. Okay? Just like in former times. And that's how our wānanga will run. Each of our whare wānanga establishments like Murihiku will do the same. Kaikoura will do the same. Probably Waimarino, Whenua maybe. That might be where we have our Western whare wānanga, unless Aotea puts in for it for Ngāmuti or somewhere around there. We'll see how we we'll see how we go. And the Tahumaakaakanuimatua who connect up in that area might want to help establish and run things from there. But yeah, the safest bet would be probably around Whenua in Waimarino, where we could open up the whare wānanga there. So everything within those lands pertaining to Kanuimatua are those things which will run the whare wānanga. Okay? Right through to your career's time. You can still, pursue all those careers that you want in the modern day. All the professionalism, all the modern, modern advantages and etc, etc, etc. All of the different, we've been already looking at lots of input from AI. For instance, AI. Lots of my friends working with AI in different businesses are dealing with the modern technology of the day. A lot of those things will operate within TeKura-i-Awarua. So it will be an ancient-based and a Tupuna-based knowledge base and run facility, but which encompasses everything and everyone. It'll be Tahumaakaakanuimatua, particularly in the reo matua. I guess the main reo of the whole of the whare wānanga. The reo matua o Tahumaakaakanuimatua. English will be reserved to that that little component of the wānanga where you can do your study in English. Or you can get some help in English to help mitigate whatever struggles you're having within te reo. Okay? But any iwi can study in a reo matua if it's reo matua that is the main medium, because we all have a reo matua. And reo matua are universal, so we can all reach into each other's reo and each other's knowledge of te reo. So that's why we put it in te reo matua of Tahumaakaakanuimatua. So familiar. Everyone, that's what I've been using right through this this particular video. I've been using te reo matua right through. Some examples there of ReoHapu, but there are lots of examples of ReoHapu we can cross over too. So now and again you hear me throughout different broadcasts, I cross over with different words from ReoHapu otu TKIA into reo matua. Okay? Otu u papa. Reo matua otu u papa. Yeah, so we so exciting, exciting. I know from Greytown to Featherston and Martinborough it's going to be huge, because there's so much facilities to, when you're bringing in kohanga reo, we have to work out how many of those we will have in the one facility. See, there won't be just one. There'll be a number of kohanga reo within the one vicinity, and the vicinity, the one wānanga complex as a whole. Student facilities will be right through the whole of the space and lands available to us. It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. A lot of staff out there that I already know are being targeted as we speak, and I think it's going to be just great for education in the motu, and especially Indigenous mātauranga tūturu, mātauranga ki te tino o te tūturu, i te motu. You know, we bring all of that. And mātauranga from a tūākana perspective, from within the most tūākana in the land. Okay? What better learning for our students, our clientele, our customers that come from far and wide, right across the world. Okay? Obviously, you'll have a massive input by the communities, by the different, the TKIA, the Hapu Uretarewa, the Uri, whanau-uri, all of them, all of the HapuIwi, whanau-uri and HapuIwi will come together, no doubt, for such a huge and massive, complex to bring through into our land. But first things first, our one and Waitarapa, we're the last of the whanau-uri of Tahumaakaakanuimatua reign within Waitarapa back in 1980, between 1918 and 1920 was when that whanau-uri is known to have stood. Okay? And that was in the Greytown area at Hautawa. Okay, tatama. So we need to be well aware of those sorts of things as we come into TeKura-i-Awarua, that a lot of the adaptations, even though a lot of the tūturu will be there, in fact all of the tūturu that we have will be there. Okay? There will also be the modern adaptations there. But still, a lot of the old there, even within that modern adaptation, because that revolves around our ancient lineage, our ancient ancestry, and brings it back and connects it back up with us within the motu, within whichever area the whanau-uri is established, and amongst the people and the ancestries of that area, the whakapapai and whakapapakoorero. Kohuiarau, we know that we need to push a lot further e tatauma for a lot more of the run of kohuiarau at a point in time where we can have that done amongst the more senior. As we get closer to the time of, we're probably well ahead of time in Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and we're trying to push for that, where the tūākana hold more control of kohuiarau, which is where it should be, because that's where it started. It only drifted off into junior lines and then eventually into the control of kiingitanga as the Crown started to take control. Okay, the New Zealand Crown, with their racial parliament, etc., etc., etc. We note that they did their job right up to 1947, and they've helped to get us re-established. We're still on that sort of plane. We're still working towards that, getting fully established, and once we are there, we would like to see, or even at some point whilst we're getting established properly in the motu, that the tūākana are utilised yet again in order to start to run the main run of kohuiarau. And hopefully we do still drive for our own facility within the north, wherever that might be. Okay? Something more comfortable, something less crown looking and crown operating, that we can operate amongst the most senior, and right through the 7 iwi. The whole 7 iwi will have a say of that, but the most senior will obviously have the main run, which is right, and that's how we're looking to run kohuiarau through there. E tatau mā, we've come through so much good kōrero. It's almost 3 o'clock. I'm so thankful. I'm so... my heart is so gladdened by the level of, not just the level of our kōrero, but the level of quality kōrero, the level of detail that we're able to bring to our kōrero, and the areas where, God, the Lord is doing so much work in there, and we're so happy about that. Even the way the Lord has brought us all on board, myself and my whanau, the role that we play, such a huge role for Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And as much as we are honoured, you know what, never have we asked for any of that. Never have we, tried to take any of that. Never have I put in for any leadership. I've always just got it. I've always shown out that quality. Or my kurahuna sometimes would come out, and without me even intending to do things like that. And so all of my elders always would get me to front. Just like what happened for Tahumaakaakanuimatua. So I thank the Lord. I thank the Lord for where we are now and the position of Tahumaakaakanuimatua and the motu. We're very highly valued, very highly cherished now in the motu, whereas when we first started it was a bit of a challenge for most people. We understand the challenges, though, Lord, for most of the teen in the country. They're still very brainwashed. They're still very over-exaggerated in the motu. And they just need a bit more informing of where things are really at and the realities of what is actually before us. The first thing they need to realise is we need to take on the crown rather than get with the crown. To a degree you've got to work with the crown, right? This is a space where the crown is a part of the space. We got no worries with that. We can work with the crown, fine. But we know where the cut-off point is. Have a cut-off point. Because once the crown tries to get you to compromise your tūturutanga, hey, kare tērā I te tino pai. Kare kau āhau te tino koa I tērā tū āhua. Kare kau āhau I te tino pai. Pērā tonu anō I a koe pā. Father, Lord, we look at a lot of the work you've done in our space. And you've said to the crown, eta. And you said, Baudiat, and you've said to the crown, move over on this point, move over on that point. Korekau, kāre tēnei o ngā tāanga tangata, o te tāanga tangata kia e nuku atu I a koe. Kāre tēnei puta kē I roto I te āhua ki te noho tonu ai ki te tika, tō ngā mātua, tō ngā tūpuna, tō rātau te tū ākana ōmua. Karekau mātau e paruri kē noa atu I te tika. And I so thank you, Father. I thank you for all this sort of, the directives that you've given the crown. It's just awesome, the way you've made the crown compromise where the crown should, the crown needs to, and what greater power to direct that of the crown ki te tohu haere iai, te karaunga, I te rā tū āhua, I rā mea katoa, than you, Lord, than you, Father, the massive position that we're in right now. Wairarapatara rua here taunga wairua. And they await us. They await our expertise. We're saying pōdiatu. Why? Because we have that expertise. We have everything awaiting the wisdom now of a lot of those people fronting for the people in Heretaunga Wairua and Wairarapatararua. To open their hearts properly to the right way for us to the right direction, the more, to move more precisely and accurately within the now in preparation for the future. And I thank you for all of that, Lord, that you brought us all of that. Mighty Father, Yahweh Toiore, I praise you, I worship you, I exalt you above all. Lord Jesus, just as we have over the last number of days, we exalt you above all. Koina nā tonu hoki anō. Thanks and praises, Father, Lord Jesus, in your holy name, Lord Jesus. Amen. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono, ko rātau mātonu anu tērā rātau, kua maumaharatia, rātau kua riro tonu atikiti o te ārai, ki te mate. Haere ki te pō, haere ki te pō nui, te pō roa, te pō tangotango, haere. Whakamau atu ki reira, ki te wāhi ka whakatau i rāti ki a koutou, ko koutou ki a koutou. Ka whakamau atu ko koutou ki a koutou, ka ngaro atu, te kānu hiki te a. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono, ko tātou mātou tonu anu tēnei tātou te kānu hiora ki a tātou mākua, whai te mihi atu. Tēnā rā tātou, mauri ora a. Kahuri.